Thank you. Over to you,
Thank
Ken.
you, Teresa.
Cara.
Hey everybody, my name's Ken and Cara is my wife and partner. Um, Welcome. Thank you, Teresa, for having us. This is really great. I should probably apologize for, you know, we're a member of the community. We've been here for living in Ajax. We lived in Winnipeg for a while. Cara's from Winnipeg for the last 18 years. And we've had the content company since 2014. And I mean, to be honest, most of our clients and stuff are American businesses and stuff, not tons in Canada. But I think we probably could have made ourselves more known in the community over this time. But we're happy to be here and happy to share with you what we have. How to use AI for content creation. So anytime you're ready to go, Care, on the slides,
Yes,
I'll get
boss.
into it.
I'll just say, agreed with Ken. Teresa and I have known each other for a long time, but I definitely haven't been around as much lately. Our head's been down creating a whole bunch of new stuff. So there's a cat behind us. If anyone cares about cats, if he knocks the sign down, I apologize ahead of time. But Ken's going to kind of take the bulk of this. And then there's a couple pieces that I'm going to chat about in the middle. So, but again, if you have questions, just pop it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer it while he's on his way.
Okay. Okay, what we're going to be going over today, I'm not just going to talk about AI and how it's used to content, and this is how you use it to write your content. There's going to be a bit of that, but I mean, it's about how to leverage AI, not necessarily how to completely never do anything with a human again and only use AI. It's meant to be used as a tool, and currently it can be used as a tool very well, in fact. So we're going to talk about content industry, what it used to be like, how AI has kind of come onto the scene and really starting to pick up speed lately, this year for sure. Why it's a positive thing, how it can be a negative thing, and problems that we've found and I've found with non-content writers using AI for content creation for the actual writing part. We'll go through prompts. We'll talk about the whole prompt game and just some AI training for how to create solid content for your business, because we're all small businesses. So a lot of times I know that especially when you're starting out as a startup, you don't have necessarily a budget for content, so you're going to do it yourself. There's a lot of cons to that, which we'll get to later too, but we'll talk about it to kind of help get you pointed in the right direction. Let's see what kind of timing we have here. Oh, look at that. That's pretty good. Okay. I'll talk about us a little bit first. Like I mentioned before, we've been around since 2014. Before that, I was a freelance content writer, copywriter. I bugged Cara to she was working in various industries, SEO for a long time, and then she was working for what was it, Cara, a party rental place kind of thing or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, an
And
event rental
event
place.
planning, yeah. And I kind of coaxed her out of it because I was good at the writing part, but I was not good at the promoting myself part and talking part and all that kind of stuff. So I figured, hey, she's really good at that stuff. So why don't I just kind of get her in here? And then we partnered up. There's a whole thing. We did a whole thing on, we call it F Up Nights Toronto, a whole speech I did about the pros and cons of having your spouse be your business partner and stuff, which is pretty funny too, but that's another thing. We built our business using North American writers. We didn't use any overseas writers because for the most part, you can tell that they're overseas writers and the clients didn't like it. You can get writers far cheaper if you're looking overseas when you're talking about human writers, but I can't believe I'm saying that, even talking about human writers as opposed to robots. Anyway, but it's, yeah, you can tell the difference in quality. That's why we always insisted on using North American writers. And I'd say, you know, being modestly, we have a pretty strong reputation in the industry. We've worked with clients all throughout the US and Canada and Ireland and Australia, a lot of different places, English speaking countries and stuff like that. So we've really had, there was a time we had probably close to 30 writers. We would use freelance writers that work for us. And we've really had in tons of different industries, everything from lots of home services to I've written we had a client that did regenerative medicine websites, just everything that you can think of. So that's how we got to where we are today. Just a lot of consistency, high quality content. And go ahead, Cara. It was probably, yeah, in the olden days, which I say olden days before AI came along, and we still do this way too, but now obviously things are changing a bit. It would be simple. You would just place an order on our website for the type of content you wanted. You choose topic, title, keywords, and stuff like that. Fill out a brief, place the order. It would usually go through me. And well, there was a time we also had other account managers, and it gets assigned to a writer. The writer completes the work, and then we send it back to you. We create we primarily use Google Drive to create folders for our clients and share the work with them there. And it's a simple process, but it's worked, and it still works today. It's just very simple, straightforward. There's not a lot of in and out, signing into things and all that different complicated stuff. Just very straightforward process. And then when did I start noticing this? Probably last year, I guess. I would notice maybe some clients kind of tailing off, and then you hear more about the AI, and we were vehemently opposed to it at first, obviously, because we're thinking the robots are taking our jobs kind of idea. So, but I would notice it more and more, and I would reach out to them and say, well, what's going on? Why aren't you ordering it? And some of them would be, if they're being truthful, would admit, well, I'm starting to use AI to write some of my posts, or, and then, oh, okay. And it was introduced, it's probably been around for longer than we know, but really last year is when I started noticing it in this industry anyway. My marketing agency started using it to help with their strategy and their outlines. The companies started, you start using it for marketing plans and marketing ideas. And now you see it for everything. Every second ad you see, especially if you're in that kind of algorithm, is use your AI for just about anything business related you can use AI for. And there's a million different platforms now too. It's part of a lot of people's everyday marketing. And we're kind of in the cusp. I don't know if that's worked. We're kind of in the part right now where it says here in the slide, in the Wild West in so many ways, because it's still it's wide open. There's no regulation. There's no anything. It's just, get it out there. And if it's a robot, it's not a robot. A lot of times, most of the time, or a lot of the time you can tell, especially in content writing, but it's a highly unregulated industry, I guess, or just the whole concept of AI. So it can make your head spin, and it makes my head spin a lot of the time.
I'm gonna jump in, and that's kind of how I think this talk's gonna end up going. Just to say, the thing about AI in general, and I have a marketing background and SEO background, so for me, I'm more strategist, and I think there's this propensity to just hand it all over to AI, all your marketing, close your eyes, hope for the best. It'll generate something, and a lot of small businesses will just run with that. And the issue that I see with that is the fact that if you don't know what a good strategy is, or if you don't know what a good blog post is, if you don't know what a good X, Y, and Z is, if I don't know what a good balance sheet looks like, and I'm relying on something else outside of me when I'm not the expert to do it for me, that's where it gets dangerous, because people don't know what they don't know. And I think we have that in the slide there. So
yeah, it'll be up in the upcoming slide. There is talk about that too.
Yeah, like when Ken's talking about the wild, wild west, it's like a new toy right now. And everybody who wants to do things quick, fast, and cheap or free everyone's just sort of running. It's like where everybody's running to the edge of the cliff and not paying attention to like where the cliff ends. And so rather than just slowing down and really educating yourself on the subject matter first, everyone thinks, oh, this is a stopgap and I can just go and figure it out. I can just ask whatever, GPT to do whatever I need it to do. But you don't know what a good strategy is, or like I said, I don't want to repeat it, but that's the danger. And I think that's why we say it's the wild, wild west in so many ways, because there are no rules. Anyone can do anything, but you run the risk of sounding, I've read some stuff where I'm like, I wouldn't hire this person to cut my toenails. Like, it's so bad because they just think, it's easy. So yeah, I just wanted to pop in and say that piece.
Go ahead, Cara. Okay. Now, yeah, before we go on and we start just beating up on AI and stuff, I know you're here to learn how to leverage AI for your content. So there are some good things about it. It's not, obviously, we wouldn't even be talking about it if it was all negative. And speed is probably, well, it is. It's got to be the most it's got to be the top on the list. It's highly getting the content created is highly efficient when you're using AI, because I'm sure a lot of you have done it already. You just type in some stuff and there it goes. It'll pop it out for you right there in front of your eyes, and it looks proper English. The punctuation is right. There's no spelling mistakes. It's a very efficient and fast content creation process. What else do we have? Yeah, consistency in tone. That's true. It is. It's going to give you the same voice, I guess you would say, and the same writing style. Especially as you when you sign up for an AI writing tool, we'll just say ChatGPT because that's one of the main ones. It kind of gets to know your style as you go along, and gets to know what you like, because you can communicate with it back and forth, and it will produce a consistent tone and style across multiple pieces of content, whatever you're writing, your blog posts and your website pages and all that kind of stuff. Scalability is, you can't argue with that. I mean, it's pretty wild actually to watch it. When you actually watch it writing it, you can create huge volumes of content very quickly. I mean, you could say, especially for you guys, you have businesses that are local. If you had a plumbing business, we write for a lot of plumbers, so I use that as an example a lot. In Whitby, and you wanted to write location pages, that's, if you guys are unfamiliar with SEO and marketing, digital marketing and stuff, great way to rank for your services and get your company ranked on search engines. For when you have individual website pages for all the towns, you would have plumbing services in Whitby, in Ajax, Oshawa, Pickering, Bowmanville, and all. As far as your service area goes, you have a specific page for each one. I'm sure most of you, or a lot of you, have those anyway already. And using AI, you can pump out pages for all those locations really quickly and get yourself out there. So when they're looking for you in a specific town that you service, they're going to find you.
So I just asked in the chat, like, put your hand up if you know about SEO, and a few people put it up. So for those who maybe are unfamiliar, Ken, do you want to just give like a brief overview about why someone would need locations pages?
Yeah, well, feel free to chime in if I miss something.
Okay, so I'll do it.
So, well, the vast majority of our, like, you would say, I don't know if I'm at a PhD level, but we've worked with so many digital marketing agencies, because primarily all of our clients are digital marketing agencies, and they would have clients that are you guys, the small business, and we would write content for you guys through them. So I've seen every different type of strategy imaginable. And the bigger ones, that a digital marketing agency will have a niche, say it's plumbers, and their thing is they make create websites for plumbers all around North America, say. That's their whole, where they work in. And like I just mentioned, you would, if you're a ABC Plumbing, and you're based in Whitby, that's where your office is, you would create separate web pages on your website for plumbers in Ajax, plumbers in Oshawa, for those keywords. If I'm looking for, I'm in Ajax, I type in good plumber, high quality plumber, the best plumber in Ajax, and it shows up your company because you have a location page that's focused on Ajax and using those keywords. And SEO, search engine optimization, is what it stands for. It's a digital marketing tactic, or do you call it a tactic, activity?
Where I say tactic.
A tactic, where it's also you'll hear organic search, where it doesn't cost anything, but you have to create web pages, blog posts, and things that Google, we'll say Google because that's the main search engine, is going to find worthy to put on the first page of search results when somebody's looking for what you have to offer. So basically, you're getting yourself found for specific keywords that relate to your business. If you're a plumber in Whitby, when someone's looking for a plumber in Whitby, you want to be on that first page. Now, there's also Google Business Profile, where you're going to show up. That's free as well. You can show up right on the first page of Google. If you don't have that enabled, you should really look into that. It doesn't cost anything. You just fill out some stuff and it'll show you on the top of the search results page there for all the different plumbers or your business in your town. But again, the location pages are for ranking for towns that you're not based in, that you
And
service.
we have
So
a we have a digital marketer in the chat. So Joan is a digital mark. She's an SEO company. So to that, it's not having SEO on your website is like 30% of the grade. The rest is off page. So when we're talking about on page, that's when we're talking about content on your page. So your website content, your blog posts. But once that piece is done, there's a whole bunch that has to happen off page as well, which you do need a very experienced SEO person to be managing that. But once you get your website created and you have your website's SEO'd, so you've got multiple locations pages, services pages, all of that, written well, then you move on to so I'm just reading the chat. Yep. Joan, we'll get to that, yes, in a second. But yeah, so it's a component, right? It's not just one piece or the other when it comes to SEO, but content began because of SEO. Really, that's the truth of it. If that's how you would rank your website and get more clients and customers, was through that.
there's
So
Google
Ken,
guidelines now too. It's EEAT or something like that, the acronym, where it has to be written for humans too. You can't just, because in the olden days, people would just write plumber in Whitby and put it 10,000 times on a page, and they would rank for that page because it read the keyword plumber in Whitby. But that's called keyword stuffing, and that's
gross.
very taboo now. Now it
Yeah.
has to actually be readable and useful, and establish yourself as an authority. There's all a bunch of different SEO rules that will help you get where you want to go faster. But that's our little SEO lesson. Let's just continue on with
so Jones just asked about plagiarism. Like, the reality is everything that has ever been written is essentially there's no original thought anymore. So one of the ways that that we're working around that is by training it to write like our tool, for example. And this would be true for if somebody was going to go and train their own GPT. The more you train it, the less it's going to pull from other sources. So one of the other ways that you can really work against plagiarism is by uploading things that you've created, so that it's, just think about it as sort of an assistant who has to learn your voice, learn the things that you talk about. But 100, I mean, is it foolproof? No. And that's the point. That's the whole point of really recognizing that AI is a tool. I have a colleague, or a friend rather, that he does branding in Calgary, and he said, like, AI can't read the room, period. And so if we understand that AI cannot read the room with content or emotion or any of that, then we can use it as a tool in our process, but we're never going to replace the process with it. And so it's not perfect. And in fact, Ken's written pieces that he's written himself, puts it through an AI detector, and it'll call it 100% AI when clearly it isn't. So I love that Joan brought that up, because if you don't have expertise in the area, which all of you should, obviously, if you're these are your businesses, you should have expertise. It's a really good tool to get you started, but exactly, it's AI should be a tool of assistant, not dependence. The human touch always. And I think honestly, we're going to see an uptick of, in the next 18 months, it's people are going to get tired of, like, if you see all the AI images, there's video now that I can record myself for a second, upload it to AI, and it can talk like me and sound like me. No matter what, we have a bullshit meter. Like, human beings have not evolved so far that we can't detect a computer and an AI versus us. Like, it's just, I personally don't think it's ever going to happen. I think we'll tire of it before that happens. But this is the conversation that needs to be, I was at a small business seminar a couple of weeks ago, and there was AI people, and Jeffrey, and I can't remember his last name, he won the Nobel Prize. He's one of the godfathers of AI creation. He's here from Toronto. And he said, like, this is a tool, and we need to be very careful about how far we take this, because it does have the capacity to do more than we want it to, because it's going to get intelligence. So always remember to, it's a tool. It's not going to replace anything. Okay, Ken, I got you. Go.
Yeah, here's a good one. Cara was talking about when you start relying on it too much, which we'll get to the negative stuff in a minute. There's cons. These are the pros. So let's stick to the pros. It can help you with outlines. It's great for creating outlines. That's one thing that I've noticed, and if you ask it correctly, you know, I always say, for some reason, I always say please when I'm asking it to do stuff. Just this Canadian thing about us, I guess, maybe. I don't know. I'm asking the robot, please create an outline, da 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 da, whatever it happens to be for a blog post about XYZ, and be sure to include information about da 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 da. And it will create a beautiful outline section. It'll show the different subheads and sections, and maybe bullet lists inside each section of what you're supposed to include. And I find that's a great way, because you can it's just so quick. It takes That's one example of it really speeding up the process, where you don't have to go do a bunch of research on your own. It's doing the research for you. Now, as we'll find out, it's not always giving you the right information, but when it comes to, I've found so far, when it comes to basic information, basic blogs, your how to unclog your kitchen sink type of blogs, it finds the right information. If there's more proprietary information or really scientific stuff, or I've heard it make up information sometimes, but for simple topics, for basic things, for creating an outline, you'll have it all in seconds right there, and then you can work off that outline and go from there to create your project. The cons of AI. Okay, now so far, since we're in the wild wild west, and it's humming along really fast and evolving and changing quickly, but there's still some issues. It may produce content, and I'm talking about using it to write a blog post. I say blog post because that's one of our main, we call them products that we sell, or website page, I guess. But there's no humanity to the writing. There's no depth. It kind of lacks context sometimes. Again, you can train it if you know what you're looking for. Again, because I can look at it, and I've been doing this for almost 20 years probably, and I can tell that needs a little more, it doesn't really have a personality, because it doesn't have a personality. It's not a human. So it'll produce the content for you. It'll be, like I said before, it'll be written properly. It'll be in proper English. It will use words that are correct. And here's one of the main things about a con of AI writing. All the words are correct English-wise, but they're words that you would never say. Like, there's so many. I have a list when I'm training the AI tools and stuff. I create an entire list of words. Do not use these words in any of the content, because they're kind of telltale signs that it's an AI word. And they use the word tailor a lot. I'm going to tailor this to meet your needs. That's a proper word. It's not wrong, but when you use it, if it's used 3 times in a blog post, and most people don't speak that way, because that's one of the caveats of good content writing and copywriting, is that you're supposed to write like you speak. The way I'm talking right now, the way I'm talking to you, that's how I would write a blog post. That's how I would write an advertisement. That's how I would write a sales page, a landing page, everything. You're supposed to write it in the second person, as if you're speaking to one person. And because that makes the reader feel like you're speaking directly to them, and it kind of resonates. Speaking in the third person, sometimes that's applicable, maybe in more academic writing and stuff, but speaking, I'm not sorry. I'm dropping little lessons here along the way, just for those of you that have small businesses and you're not sure about the content. Just these little bits, write them down if you want. They're good stuff. But yeah, you're supposed to write in the second person, just like you're having a conversation. When you're writing your stuff, whether it's your web pages or anything, write as if you're having a conversation with your ideal client or customer. Yeah, contextual errors. Sometimes it fails to understand the context. I find that a lot with, we have the whatever professional version of Grammarly is, and it uses AI when I put it in a Google Doc to give you suggestions. And a lot of time just giving suggestions that don't make any sense, because it doesn't understand what I'm trying to say, because I'm speaking in conversational English, North American English, like how we would talk one-on-one to each other. And it's not catching what I'm saying. So sometimes being a robot. It's not going to understand the context, it's another reason why it's a good to find someone to train your tool for you, train it yourself, learn how to do it, or at least at the very least, read it over. Don't just have the AI create your thing and then upload it somewhere and not read it over and make sure everything is the way you want it to be. Go ahead, dear. Yeah, it kind of looks like to me when it's the same as even our smartphones and stuff like that. At what point, I wonder, especially for younger people that are coming up and they're going to be using this all the time, at what point is it going to be an over reliance and they're not going to be able to write anything at all by themselves? It really reduces your opportunities and the need for human creativity and critical thinking. It's just the same as you'd say, oh, I'll just look that up on Google. That's just part of our regular lives now. What's it going to be? Oh, I'll just type it into ChatGPT or wherever it is, and it'll write it for me. And sooner or later, it's like anything else. If you're into exercise or if you're into whatever meditation, whatever kind of pursuit you're into, you have to practice. And it's no different writing. It might be even more so. You have to keep your muscles sharp and you have to practice them. I know a lot of people, because it looks like well-written English, and it is kind of well-written English. It's good enough, but it's not good enough. It's it can't read the room, and you know who you're speaking to, and you can even tell it, say this as if you're speaking to XYZ people or profession or whatever, and it'll do it based on what it drags off is on the internet now. But there's never going to be, and well, I shouldn't say never, who knows how smart these things are going to get, but currently it can't be a total replacement for all of the writing that you need to do. Because a lot of you, even when you're writing emails and stuff like that, it can write emails and, they're not bad. They're an email, but it doesn't really get into the human part of it. It's not reading the room of people that you're trying to influence, because remember that you're always trying to influence somebody. There's no point in having it just to have it and throw some writing out there just to say, oh, I got that. Take it, like check it off your checklist. It's always an opportunity for you to connect with your ideal customers and people that are going to be giving you money for whatever it is you do. Don't get lazy. Here, I was talking to Cara earlier about how a lot of you have, and maybe all of you have, but a lot of you have storefronts, like physical storefronts, offices, or whatever. And this is talking more about a content quality. You would never have your store in disarray when people come into it. If people walked in and there was stuff strewn all over the place and there was dirt on the floor and dirt on the windows, they turn around and leave. But the same thing, especially in this day and age, you have to have a website that resonates with people, and the content on your website is not all about the design. Design is very important. It's your brand colors. It gets people to associate themselves with what you do. But if the content's poor, they're not going to stay. They're going to create a perception of your business based on the quality of the content on your website and on everything else, even your social media channels and everything else that you put out there as your business. They're going to create a perception. And if it's sloppy and if it's poorly done, that's what they're going to think of you. And you know what's going to happen after that.
Can I jump in for a sec?
Yes, you can.
So in the early days of SEO, earlier days of SEO, when we launched our company, people would say, well, why do you need to have every piece of content that you have around high quality? So there's a difference between, and I think Joan could probably attest to this. There's a difference between off-page, articles for SEO, quote unquote, versus what's on your website. And our view has always been that both of those things are the same. So if somebody, when Ken's talking about the storefront, it's the same as your website. If somebody wrote an article for me just for ranking, just to build links, just to do that, and one of you happened upon it and you saw this piece of content that was written poorly, you're not calling me. especially us, because we're a content writing company. You're not going to call us because if you see one shitty article out there that's like written for SEO, which that's people still do that, it's going to give you an impression of our company and we wouldn't get that client. And the same goes for all of this and the inside of the store, etc. But like when I wrote this slide, don't get lazy, it's like it's still important that you're thinking about what you're doing and not just plopping something out there, just like Ken said, just to get it off your to-do list. But every piece of content you create is important in our view, period.
And the good news, there's a lot of people, especially digital agencies and stuff, that I deal with, and they freak out because they think that, at some point, because, if you've been involved in digital marketing at all, and Cara has more experience than me, Google can be a temperamental bitch of sorts when all of a sudden, hey, we have this new update and it completely wipes out your entire website because you were doing something you didn't even know you were doing wrong, but then they decide they don't like it anymore. So a lot of people are freaked out about they're going to crack down on AI generated content, especially if it's not theirs. I think there are things called Gemini or something, and just wipe your website off the thing. But according to their guidelines, February 2023, they said they don't care one way or the other as long as it helps users and abides by their spam policies. Whether it's created by a human or an AI is irrelevant as long as it's high quality content and is useful for the user, or which is going to be the human user that it's intended for. So that's good news. So far, so good.
So I'm just going to pause and like, does anybody have any questions they want to ask before we keep going? If you want to pop it in the chat, or yeah, just I guess that would be kind of the best way to go with that. Or is this pretty pretty self-explanatory? So Yasmin, those are the things you should. We'll get into prompts in a second, but so Yasmin just said, how do we use AI tools to create killer content? What else should we focus on besides context, quality, and tone? I mean, those are the pillars, right? Like just like if you were going to sit down and write it, those are the things you want to focus on. But prompts, I think, is coming up soon, so I'll mute and keep.
And that's what I was going to say. That's okay, Care, that last one. This is an issue with how does a small business owner create great content using AI? I don't know if they can create great content using AI. You can create better content using AI by following some rules and stuff, but it's just like I mentioned before, I've been doing it for so long. It's like in any industry, if somebody's doing it for such a long time, you just notice these little things because I mean, the AI detectors are getting pretty wild too. Like Cara mentioned before, I've had clients come back and say, this says it's 100% AI. So I wrote it myself personally. It's not, but it's just that they pick up or they intend to pick up on patterns and things like that. And this is one way that from the slide before, the Google thing people might get in trouble later, is that obvious AI, because it just has different word patterns, certain word patterns that it sticks to. And that is common that after you've been doing it for a while, you can just kind of read it and if you're experienced. And that's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. If you're not a content writer or a copywriter, it looks good to you. You went to high school, you went to college, maybe you've written essays and things like that. It looks like an essay. It looks well written. It looks smart and academic, but there's a difference. And it's hard to know which words to keep, which words to get rid of, whether it's actually engaging to someone, to the reader, your intended audience, because that's who's going to be reading it. That's one thing you always have to remember, is that you're writing not for what you want to write. You're not a writer. This is trying to be a writer is going to make it sound shitty, in my opinion. You are there you're speaking to that one person, that ideal client, whoever it is, or whoever that piece of writing is intended for. That's who you're speaking to, and it has to be engaging to them. It has to use language that they would use, and has to resonate with them throughout the page. It has to help draw them in from the headline all the way down through. But yeah, it's in the potential issue is unknowingly putting out poor quality content and sounding just like everybody else. Let's just think of it like this. If everybody, not it, but if 10,000 people have no content writing experience, but they learn how to use the AI tool and they write the same article, isn't it going to sound the same as everybody else? And then you're just putting out, it's not exact duplicate content, but you're not differentiating yourself in any way. There's no personality. It's just all the same. And that's one big issue with using AI just strictly word for writing your content when you don't know any better, is that it's just going to sound the same as everybody else. It'll be out there. It'll be something out there. Maybe you'll get some pages that rank here and there, but it's going to sound the same as everybody else. And you don't want to be like everybody else if you're running a business.
And not and like this talk isn't to like discourage you from trying, but there's no magic bullet, I think, is what we're saying, is that
well, we're
if
going
you
to
want to
some
get good
prompts in a minute too.
Yeah, prompts for sure. Like that's definitely helpful. But like anything, if content creation is really something that you love doing, go for it, like 100%. But there's no magic bullet, to no AI, no anything is ever going to say, like, it's not a magic bullet, right? So you have to learn how to use it. Prompts is for sure a big piece of that, but it's really training your eye to read your content that you've created and saying, you know what, this resonates or this doesn't. And I love that you're bringing that up, Ken, because it's just like when you're doing a video, a lot of, I'm a business coach as well. And a lot of clients are like, I don't want to go on video. Okay, well, think of because they think there's a million people watching them, when probably not. But like, if you picked one person, your one client, so let's say Popeyes, for example, there's one kid at lunchtime. He knows, 50,000 kids come to eat at lunch there. If you pick one kid that you're talking to with your content, or one mom who is looking for a roofer because her husband's at work and she's got to get that taken care of. If you look for that one person, write to them. Don't write to the masses, because it loses its personality. But there's no quick magic bullet to say, how to create killer content is practice, understanding the skill. It's a skill, just like website development, just like all the things that many of us are doing. It takes practice and understanding your audience and all those type of things. So Ken, if you want to get into the prompts, I think that is next. So I'll click forward.
So when you're talking about, if you insist on doing your own content, maybe you don't have a budget for anything, it's all about the prompts. And the prompts are basically just the rules or the instructions that you're given to the AI. So when you go into, I'll use a chat GPT, you have your little box there to add info. When I was getting started using that stuff, you can get quite detailed. I'll say, please, again. I don't know if he does it better when I say please, but I like saying it anyway. Please write a 1,000 word blog post entitled, and I'll write the title. And then I'll say which keywords to include and how many times. I'll say things like, well, for me, I have a whole list of words not to use. I have words that it's okay to use. I'll say to use, I have a guideline that I have a guideline that I've uploaded into ChatGPT that has all the rules that I like to use. And just like anybody else, I mean, I'm a content writer, but you have to go learn these things. I had to go look it up and do my research and figure out what are the best prompts to use and figure out what's the best way to make it work for me. Because I mean, the best way to make it work for you, which Cara is going to get into in a few minutes, is to outsource it to somebody else, because you're a business owner and you should be growing your business. You shouldn't be writing stuff unless you're a writer. If you have a writing business, obviously that's different. But it's the prompts and there we go. Be specific in what you ask for. And another thing about AI writers, AI writing tools, is that they have an issue gauging word count. So, I mean, I said, do a 2,000 word blog post, blah, 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 and it gives me 600 words. Doesn't compute, which means you have to continue the prompt, because you can take a few tries to get it right. You can consider using different writing styles. Sometimes you can upload writing that you've done before if you like it, and it will kind of take that and start to produce future writing based on that. But you have to do the work to learn the process. And that means when you're looking online for stuff, I tell this to my daughter all the time, be totally specific. Great big long tail keywords, that just means a long sentence. Exactly what you're looking for, and you'll be able to narrow it down a lot faster. It's not a magical thing. Like I just said, outsourcing, obviously, just like anything, makes the most sense. It's a business expense that you have, just like your marketing, just like whatever. And it's very important. But again, if you're going to do it, I know there are some that are going to do it anyway. They just can't wrap their head around paying for it, or they don't have the budget yet if they're a startup. Take the time, set aside time in the evening or whenever you have, and figure out how to do the prompts. Just ask about prompts and how creating the right prompts, how to do it, tips on doing it, and you can go from there, because that's really the lifeline on the outputs that you're going to get. Because if you just type in a thing, write a blog post called this, it's going to stink. So you're going to have to, and when it gives you something, read it through and then say, okay, thank you. Or if you want to say thank you, now please write it and include X, or write it without this word, or write it as something that doesn't strike you right. And it might take several times, but again, it takes time. It's not instant. It's
And
people are thinking
sometimes, sorry, I cut you because we're running out of time, so I want to get through it. But sometimes I'll even say, okay, now make it funny or make it humorous.
yeah.
And then it'll produce something that is still all the same information, but it's funnier and it's got some jokes in there. So,
but just for that, and for any type of writing you do, whether you're doing it by hand yourself as a human or using AI, just always consider who's going to be reading it. That's all you have to think about. Who's going to be reading this, and how am I going to get the message across that's going to be engaging to them so they'll keep reading it. And because at the end of every blog post, or throughout each blog post, or anything, your website pages, your landing pages, it should have a call to action somewhere where you're telling them to get in touch with you, download something. There should be some conversion all the time. Talk about, just get in touch to learn more about the service or the product or whatever. And in order to get to that, they have to read the whole thing. So you got to make it engaging to people. That's another way. Even when you're using AI, just put yourself in the position of the person that's going to be reading it and say, would I keep reading this, or would I not keep reading this? And if it gets, good is not good enough. It has to be engaging, and it has to kind of grab you. Now, a bit about mindset.
Yeah, well, and this kind of ties into that, because so as business owners, our mindset is the most critical piece of the puzzle, and this reflects directly on your marketing. If you don't have the right mindset behind your marketing, your customers are going to be able to sniff that out. And that's sort of what he's saying. Like, at the end of the day, if you sit down to write an email to my audience and I start off with a line that's directly about me, I'm not there for them, and they can tell. Right. So again, like when you're thinking about who am I here for? Why am I writing this? Like, why do I care? When you put your heart into the content that you're creating, that usually doesn't include it all coming from AI. It includes it coming from, why am I even here? Like, what's my why for this business? Right. Do you have anything to add there, Kenny?
No, that sounds good. But to the point of, when you're writing something, you're instantly, I've equated it like this a lot of times. It's like if you're going on a blind date with someone and they sit there and all they do is talk about themselves the whole time.
Right.
It's instantly turned off. When someone arrives at your website or your whatever piece of marketing it is, and it's we, I all the way down, it's going to turn them off instantly. Because just remember this too. No one cares about you. Your mom probably cares about you, but nobody cares about you. They're not going there. They're not coming to your business because you're so great. They're coming there for what's in it for me. And it sounds kind of callous, but it's true. They're coming there for whatever, it's a product, whether it's a service. They have a problem and they need a solution. They have an itch they need scratched. They have a craving that they need solved, for you Popeyes people there. So, but just saying, we have this, our thing is so great, our, it's going to turn them off immediately. It's what you can do for them. Yeah, why does it benefit them to be there?
And that's a mindset shift. So yes, we're talking about marketing. Yes, we're talking about content, but the mindset is like really understanding. And that was the next slide. I jumped ahead a little bit, but if it used to be like in Mad Men days in the 70s and whatever, like New York, Madison Avenue, it was like, who could be the loudest, who could be the most obnoxious, telling you how great they were. Like Ken's 100% accurate. Nobody cares. We're so evolved in our EQ, our emotional intelligence now, that when anybody comes at you, like just imagine, if you guys are at an event and you're shaking hands and you're networking, if a guy or girl comes up to you and shakes your hand and immediately goes, "Hi, I'm Cara from the content company." I'm so turned off period. But I won't even carry the conversation on. I start conversations. Tell me about your business. And so your mindset has to change because it's old conditioning. Many of us are old, older, and we're not brand spanking new business owners. And we remember those days where it was just all about how loud the brand could be and everything, da 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 da. People want connection now, and they want it even through your content. Ken actually proposed to me in a letter 25 years ago and 23 years ago, sorry. And I still have it. It's really cute. But if AI created that, I could sniff through past it in 2 seconds and be like, you didn't write this. So start asking yourself some really tough questions before you sit down to write content for your website, or before you start the emails, like, why am I doing the thing? Is it just because I want to make money? And there's absolutely, where none of us should be in business to not make money. We're in business to make money, and hopefully you are too. But if that's what you're leading with, your content and your marketing efforts are going to sound that way, and people will be turned off by it. So ask them, ask yourself, do I really want to solve a problem for my customer? And when you get into that zone and you go from your head to your heart, and you're sitting there actually genuinely caring about the person who's going to read this piece of content, the content flows much better. People will say, well, I don't know what to write about. Think about the top 10 things your customers are asking you, or even more so than that, think about the problem that you had, that you solved, because most businesses are created because we had the problem. We had the problem. I worked for SEO companies, and the content that I was giving to my clients was trash. So Ken and I spoke about it. He started writing for that agency, and then boom, we moved on and we write for agencies because there was a hole in the market. The content was garbage. But ask yourself, like, what did I need to hear before, when I needed to call whatever service you're in? There's a plumber out there who really genuinely cares about the family having water working properly and their toilets working. Like, if you're just in it for the money, your marketing, your content's going to show that. And no amount of AI or hiring it out is going to help that. So this piece is a little off track, but it's not, because when you start to really dig deep into the why that you're doing things, it's going to change the way that things come out. So belief is everything. This is another piece. If your mindset is such that, and this could be a whole talk on its own, but I just wanted to touch on it because we can give you all of the ways to create killer content. We can tell you all the ways to do blog posts, email marketing, all of that stuff. But if underneath, fundamentally, you're not believing that you're capable or that you're worthy of a business that's thriving, you're not going to do any of the stuff we tell you. And I learned that the hard way when I was coaching women. I would give them all this content information, all this branding stuff, and they would do nothing with it. And eventually I came to realize they don't think they're deserving of it, so they don't do the thing. So you can give everybody, I can give you a whole toolbox, but if you don't feel like the why is big enough and you're not compelled enough to do the thing, you're not going to use these tools regardless of how great they are. So be clear on who you're talking to and your why for your business. And maybe just pop it in the chat, like, you're my why for my business, and give me one sentence as to why you're in your business. Why did you start your business? And then, are your goals for your content and marketing about you or your customer? It should always 100% of the time. I've learned from Todd Hartley. I don't know if any of you know him. He's an amazing marketer. It's always got to be like the hero story. That's another marketer, but it's always got to be about the person who's reading it. Like, if you get into that mindset, your content's going to soar no matter who's writing it.
And even for Popeye there, you like an owner of a Popeye is likely got into it because it's a franchise and is well known and they're known to make money. But once you're in there, you can still market to the people. You can talk about the crisp of the chicken. There's things where you can put them first, and it's not just we're Popeyes, we're the best fried chicken, get in here kind of thing. You can the way you even talk to people when they come into the store. It's if you're thinking about the other person first all the time, it's gonna skyrocket.
Yeah, and it feels better. So we'll just quickly touch on this, and I don't know if we have time. Like, we're almost done, guys. So thank you for hanging on, and hopefully you're getting a lot of value out of this. But
if you want to talk more about the AI stuff or content, you can also get in touch with us. By the way, we're not going to leave forever right after this.
Yeah. So being the owner versus the operator this is a principle I learned a long time ago in a Tony Robbins event, which I don't know if any of you know. If you know Tony Robbins and you like him, great. But owner versus operator is really about, like, if you're in your business and you happen to not, like, this is overwhelming to you and you're thinking, oh my God, this is a lot. That's okay. I mean, to be the owner of your business means that you're happy to outsource some of this. Some of this you might want to do, and we're not suggesting that like this isn't a sales pitch. We're here to teach you, but the principle of owner versus operator, think about all the things like AI for accounting. Anything that you can outsource or make easier for yourself frees up the time that you can actually go do the thing that you started your business for. Like, I'm not going to go and try to be an accountant. I hate accounting. It makes me want to cry. So I'm going to outsource that because I make more money selling content than I would ever spend on doing my accounting. So I want
It
to be
frees up
the
space
owner.
in your brain. Sorry, Care,
Yeah,
to
I want to be the
think
owner
bigger
of the
too.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you alleviate and you kind of get rid of the noise of like, I have to do my social media, I have to do my this, I have to do that. When you kind of say, okay, listen, how much revenue can I generate if I'm selling my product versus if I'm doing my social media or if I'm doing my accounting? It's a mindset shift. It's becoming so you're not feeling that scarcity of I can't share, I can't pay this, I can't, and that's a scarcity thing versus an abundance thing where it's like, okay, if I outsource accounting and even your car wash, even you're getting your house cleaned, like all of those things free up your time so you're truly the owner of your company and not the operator. And as the owner, that's when you get to think big. That's when you get to have really exciting vision. That's when you think, oh, maybe I could franchise this, maybe I can add employees. So it's really critical, like the sort of underpinning of all of this is owner versus operator. Owner doesn't have to do all the itty bitty little things that maybe they don't love to do. So, you have anything to add there, Ken? I'm trying to
No, that
wrap it
sounds
up
good
now.
to
Now I'm
me.
going to fire. So, we're not going to spend a ton of time, but just to give you a sense of, well, if you want to talk to us further, there was a QR code, but it's off the screen now, but I think Teresa can get us in touch. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we got out of this is yes, you can do it. There's ways to make this easier. If you don't want to do it, there's also alternatives. But really, at the end of the day, when you're creating killer content using AI, you need to train it like a dog. Like
And
you
remember,
can't just let it go
remember
rogue.
it's a tool. And if you want to use it and you want to actually use it to write, you got to put in the work first. It's not gonna do everything for you. You have to train it properly if you want to use it for your actual writing. If you want to use it as a tool for outlines and things like that, and then go from there, great. If you want to outsource to someone else who knows what they're looking for, great. But if you want to use it yourself, take the time because you're going to have the last thing you want is to have a whole bunch of crappy content out there that doesn't resonate with people. And try and remember all the other little tips we've given along the way too. Speak to, because even if you use AI, you can still speak to your ideal client first. And don't be all about we and our and us and stuff.